96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning. Has the government approved the NIB rate hike? The increase is expected to take effect in July. Bahamas Air denying claims from former Prime Minister Minister had millions of dollars missing in Haiti. And opposition leader Michael Pintard demanding the Prime Minister bring info to support his BPL claims. Plus, in our interview today, Michael Pintard will be our guest. It's all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan. And this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of the new way. You know that it's there. It's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up. It's a new day. Wake up, 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 wake up.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. My special guest co-host today, Alexis Burrows, will be joining us in just a bit. Also this morning in Morning Blend Business, we are talking about Grand Bahama and following the Prime Minister saying that changes need to happen with the Grand Bahama Port Authority. We're getting reaction from businessmen on the island. What should those changes look like? That's all straight ahead. But first, it's time for the overnight, the latest breaking news from while we're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, the National Guardian reporting that the Cabinet of the Bahamas has green-lighted a National Insurance Board rate increase, which is expected to take effect July 1st. The government has made no announcement as yet, but a 1.5% increase has reportedly been agreed. Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister, Miles Larota, who has responsibility for NIB, did not confirm Cabinet's specific decision on the matter, but it did indicate to reporters yesterday that a decision has been made. There's only ever been one NIB rate increase since NIB started in 1974. The rate increased from 8.8% to 9.8% in 2010. Larota has repeatedly said an increase for NIB cannot be avoided. Earlier last month, the Nassau Guardian reported that the board of NIB wrote the government recommending that it move ahead with an increase of between 0.75 of a percentage point and 1.5%. to begin to save the fund from depletion in 2028, as was projected in the latest actuarial review presented in January 2022. Bahamas Air Managing Director Tracy Cooper says that former Prime Minister Dr. Jimenez's assertions that millions of Bahamas Air's money is missing in Haiti is not true. Cooper noting that Bahamas Air suspended services to Port-au-Prince and Cape Haitian during the pandemic. He said certain administrative and reconciliation issues occurred with the company that provided handling and representation for Bahamas Air in Haiti. He says, as a result, funds related to the sale within Haiti were deposited into the Bank of Haiti once service resumed. He says there's an amount of $530,000, or in the range of that amount, in deposits made in the bank for Bahamas Air by their handling agent in Haiti due to ticket sales. He says the amount is now reconciled and there is no dispute regarding funds owed. In light of Prime Minister Philip Davis's acknowledgement in Parliament that his administration consciously made a decision upon coming to office in September 2021 not to execute BPL's fuel hedge trades as requested by BPL's Fuel Hedge Committee, opposition leader Michael Pintard insisting the government's decision has burdened the Bahamian people with millions of dollars in fuel costs. As outlined in the Nassau Guardian yesterday, the Prime Minister, for the first time since controversy arose over the matter, suggested intimate knowledge of the decision, saying that they decided to deal with the emergency in front of them rather than making a forward bet. But previously, Davis had said, in and outside of Parliament, that he knew nothing of the requests that were made and was not involved in any decision-making. Pintard says it in a new statement that, quote, credibility, in the words of a prime minister, is paramount. Pintard, who was a minister in the cabinet during the Min's administration, insisted yesterday that no decision was made, as was claimed by Davis, to abandon a hedge during their time in office. In other news, the parents of a sexual assault victim say they don't believe that the convicted sex offender should be sentenced to prison for his crime. Probation officer Ghislaine Dean making the shocking revelation during the sentencing hearing for Timothy Mario Jones on Tuesday. Jones pleaded guilty to the indecent assault of an 8-year-old girl after Justice Renee McKay called upon him to present a case at his trial last December. According to the prosecution's case, the victim was a friend of Jones's daughter. On March 1st, 2020, she went to her friend's house to play, and the convict asked her if she wanted to play hide-and-seek. He sent his daughter outside to hide and told the friend to come into the bedroom to count. While in the room, he blindfolded her with a head cloth. The girl said she heard pants unzip before Jones placed her hands on his genitals. According to the probation officer, the victim said that the indecent assault left her traumatized and that she has nightmares as a result. On the other hand, the victim's parents telling the probation officer that they did not believe that the indecent assault took place and that she was coerced into making the complaint by her sister. As a result, they said that he should not be punished. And police have charged a man who they say raped a woman during a home invasion last month. Kumar Lloyd appeared before Magistrate Samuel McKinney on Tuesday, facing charges of abetment to rape, armed robbery, and burglary. According to police, 3 masked gunmen broke into a home on Marshall Road around 5 a.m. on January 8th. The intruders tied up a 59-year-old man and his 33-year-old wife and raped her. They also robbed her husband of $3, his wedding band worth $2,500, and a $250 cell phone. The men also robbed the wife of a Movado watch valued at $600, a pair of sunglasses worth $15, and a Kindle tablet. Lloyd, who was unrepresented, did not have to enter pleas to the charges. He was denied bail and returns to court on March 3rd to receive a voluntary bill of indictment. Overseas, with hope fading to find survivors, stretched rescue teams toiled through the night in Turkey and Syria, searching for signs of life in the rubble of thousands of buildings toppled by a catastrophic earthquake. The death toll Wednesday standing now at more than 11,000 in the deadliest quake worldwide in more than a decade. Amid calls for the Turkish government to send more help to the disaster zone, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan touring a tent city where people forced from their homes are living. He conceded shortfalls early on in the response, but vowed that no one would be left in the streets. Search teams from more than 24 countries have joined tens of thousands of local emergency personnel, and aid pledges have poured in from around the world. For the scale of the destruction of the 7.8 magnitude quake and its powerful aftershocks, so immense and so widespread that many are still waiting for help. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky making a rare trip out of his country today, daring to visit Britain in a bid for more advanced weapons as Kyiv braces for an expected Russian offensive and hatches its own plans to retake land held by Moscow's forces. Zelensky arriving on a Royal Air Force plane at London Stansted Airport, north of the UK capital. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak greeted him on the tarmac, tweeting a photo of him embracing the Ukrainian leader. In sports, Bahamian professional tennis player Justin Roberts had a strong start to 2023, coming out victorious at the M15 Palm Coast Wild Card Tournament Sunday, playing at the Palm Coast Tennis Center in Palm Coast, Florida. The Bahamian did not drop a single set and went in perfect 5-0. He took December and January off and kicked off the month of February healthy. He's set to have a busy February. You can read all about that in today's Guardian Sports section. And BARC, the Bahamas Alliance for Animal Rights and Kindness, announcing the date for its annual triathlon. Now in its 10th year, the BARC Powerade Pot Cake Man Triathlon will take place Sunday, March 5th at 7:30 a.m. at Jaws Beach. The race includes a 750-mile swim, a 12-mile bike ride, and 750, that might not be accurate, but anyway, and a 5-kilometer run. In addition to the adult categories, there are 2 junior categories and 2 puppy categories. Read all about that in today's Guardian Sports section. And from the NBA, he did it. LeBron James making history last night on a star-filled night in Los Angeles. He is the new NBA scoring king, passing a record long held by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. For James, the greatest cost of nearly 2 decades in the NBA has been his family issues, but his sons were there to support him at the court. He surpassed Abdul-Jabbar's record of 38,387 points as the crowd roared for every minute of it last night. The LA Lakers fans stomping with every point while James steadily surged toward the mark held since April 1984 by Abdul-Jabbar, who watched as well right there in the stands. With 4 championship rings and nearly every other honor available to a basketball player, the 38-year-old James, who scored 38 points last night, closed in on this next moment in history with the confidence of a player who's been even better than anyone could have expected. Congratulations to LeBron James. However, the Lakers still lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 133-130. Oh well. That's sports, and that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. In your weather for today, we've got a ridge of high pressure that's going to dictate the forecast for the next few days, which includes comfortable and breezy to windy conditions. A frontal boundary near the southeast Bahamas will continue to weaken over the area. The possibility of rip currents and rough surf still exists along Atlantic exposures, though, and beachgoers should exercise caution. For today, for the Northwest Bahamas, look for partly sunny, warm, and breezy conditions with a very slight chance of an isolated shower, becoming partly cloudy and cool tonight. For boaters, small craft should exercise caution, winds easterly at 15 to 20 knots, with higher gusts, seas 4 to 7 feet. For the central southeast Bahamas, partly cloudy, warm, and windy with isolated showers and a slight chance of a thunderstorm. Small craft advisory in effect, winds easterly at 20 to 25 knots, seas 7 to 10 feet. It's currently about 69 degrees right now in Nassau. Look for highs getting up to around 81 Fahrenheit, 27 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 68 Fahrenheit, 20 Celsius. That's your first look at weather this morning. We'll have your extended outlook coming up after traffic in just a bit.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
You're listening to Morning Blend. When we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories right here on your home for fresh news and smart talk all day. Guardian Radio 96.9.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
With over 25 years in business, nothing says commitment to our people, culture, and service like Rev. And this year is no different. We will continue to elevate your home experience for you to create and share memories for years to come, while keeping you connected to the people and things you love most. Our pledge to provide quality service each year remains true. Rev is made for you.
Legacy College Readiness and Tours. Already get the first set of knowledge. Now it's time to prepare you for college. You're thinking so much you gotta do. Legacy will handle that for you.
Hi, my name is Erica Morris, the president of Legacy College Readiness and Tours, a comprehensive college readiness firm. I'm reminded of my senior year in high school, the trepidation and insecurity I felt the closer my school years were coming to an end. I was afraid and unsure of what steps to take next. I needed a me, someone knowledgeable about the college and career selection process. And I know finding the best college fit can be a daunting and stressful task. And I'm here to eliminate that stress by providing a guided tour into you choosing the right college for you. For more information on how Legacy College Readiness and Tours can assist you, contact us at 242-809-5278 or email us at legacycollegetours@gmail.com.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Greetings, allow me to introduce myself. I am the
New Tortilla Lime Crunch Chicken Sandwich from Wendy's.
And I have a little of everything. Avocado, taco mayo, pickles,
And crunchy tortillas on top of a delicious breaded chicken fillet. Yes, the new Wendy's Tortilla Lime Crunch Chicken Sandwich has as many flavor personalities. Try it today at your Wendy's, where we are different inside and out.
Welcome to the power of Visa, with access to thousands of travel and shopping and dining discounts with up to $1,500 in savings yearly with Mobile Assist's new prepaid Visa travel rewards cards. Book the cheapest flights, even cheaper than Orbitz and Expedia. Get cash back at participating hotels, car rentals with automatic insurance, and online shopping discounts at U.S. stores like Gap, Best Buy, and more. Get your 30-day free trial when you download our Mobile Assist app. Visit Mobile Assist/rewards now for your prepaid Visa travel rewards card.
Are you ready to break up with your car? Easy Car Sales invites you to fall in love with an electric vehicle. Ditch the gas pump, the expensive mechanics, Feel the freedom, the power. Visit easy242.com and make a date to test drive an electric vehicle today. Get into a better relationship. Find your perfect match at Easy Car Sales and drive electric happily ever after.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at Morning Blend 969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969 or text us on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC 422-4796. Standard text rates apply. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. Chester Robart's out sick today, but I've got a special guest co-host. Once again, Alexis Burrows is joining us. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Dwight. How you doing?
Doing well. Great to have you with us, as has been the case. We appreciate you being here this morning. Looking forward to another great discussion today. We have a lot to talk about this morning. Coming up in just a bit, we're going to be speaking with the opposition leader, F&M leader Michael Pintard is going to be our special guest. We have a lot to talk to him about. And then later in Morning Blend Business, we are talking about Grand Bahama and the Port Authority and the discussions about the need for change with the GBPA. We're talking with business people about that, what that should look like this morning. So a lot to get to, but there's also a lot to talk about in the news. And in the news, big headline in the National Guardian, government approves NIB rate hike. We were told yesterday by the minister responsible for NIB, National Insurance Board, Miles Lorota, that the government has decided on what to do. And according to the National Guardian sources, they've approved a rate hike. Of course, the government has not made any announcement about this as yet, but the sources are telling the National Guardian that it's going to be a 1.5% increase. And, of course, it's the first time the rate has been increased since NIB started. Well, the first one since the only rate increase back in 2010. And that was the only one since NIB was started in 1974. And we've been warned for years, I want to say it feels like decades, that unless something is done, that we could deplete the fund. And, of course, there was a lot of pressure on the NIB with the pandemic, and a lot has been happening. So something needs to be done. But, boy.
It's I mean, I think we sit in a space where you have to kind of manage this double-edged sword, right? Mm-hmm. So in one breath, you don't want to have the fund depleted. But on the flip side, you also have to take into consideration, the bottom line effect on regular everyday Bahamians' pocketbook in terms of, additional money coming out of their paycheck every week, every month, every 2 weeks, whatever it is. So I don't envy, NIB, their board, and the government, and everyone involved in making that decision, because it really becomes, you have to try and play both sides of the fence, basically, which is, you don't want the fund depleted, but how do you do this in a way where you're not adding additional financial pressures onto people in their everyday life, looking at everything else that's going on?
Yeah, definitely. And it's been a challenging year, inflation and costs rising for almost everything else.
Right.
And so this is going to be a lot for folks, but desperately needed, as you said. So they can't avoid this. Let's see if we can unplug this one here. Is it this one that's causing the echo? Maybe that one down there. Okay, I think that's it. And you can still hear, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we want to get your reaction to that, folks. Again, we're not sure, but hopefully we'll know what it is going to be very soon, but we know we've been heading in this direction. So I think everyone's been braced to expect some sort of increase.
Right.
And this looks like this is the upper end of one of the recommendations.
Everything goes up but the salary. That's a common refrain.
Yeah. Give us a call, folks. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us. 422-4796. All right, so that's happening, but there's a shocking story in today, and that I really want to try to understand this. So you might have heard this in the overnight a few minutes ago. The headline, parents of sexual assault victim do not believe offender should be jailed. That part alone is interesting, right? All right, so our Artesia Davis writing about this. The parents of a sexual assault victim said they don't believe that the convicted sex offender should be sentenced to prison for his crime. Okay.
So I have a question there.
Mm-hmm.
Is the conviction for this, or was he a previous offender?
I don't know. Let's see.
Okay, let's see.
Let's see. And that so far, okay, well, there might be good Christian people and think he could be reformed. Maybe, but it gets crazier. Probation officer Ghislaine Dean making the shocking revelation during the sentencing hearing for Timothy Mario Jones on Tuesday. Jones pleaded guilty. He pleaded guilty to the indecent assault of an 8-year-old girl after Justice Renee McKay. He pleaded guilty. That's very key. Pleaded guilty to the indecent assault of an 8-year-old girl after Justice Renee McKay called upon him to present a case at his trial last December. Guilty. 8 years old. According to the prosecution's case, the victim was a friend of Jones's daughter. On March 1st, 2020, she went to her friend's house to play, and the convict asked her if she wanted to play hide-and-seek. He sent his daughter outside to hide and told the friend to come into the bedroom to count. While in the bedroom, he blindfolded her with a headcloth. The girl said she heard pants unzip before Jones placed her hand on his penis. I left this part out earlier, but I'm going to read it now. After stroking his penis against the girl's hand for several minutes, Jones gave the girl a pack of crackers and $3. The girl said she washed her hands after going home. She said she was hesitant about telling her parents about the incident because she feared they would row her. However, she told her sister what happened 2 days later. According to the probation officer, the victim said that the indecent assault left her traumatized and that she had nightmares as a result. However, the victim's parents telling the probation officer that they did not believe that the incident took place and that she was coerced into making the complaint by her sister. As a result, they said that he should not be punished. Despite pleading guilty, Jones told the probation officer that he was innocent. What now? What? He said he pleaded guilty due to his frustration with the trial process and bail conditions.
That makes sense?
Not one bit.
Okay.
Not one bit of sense.
Okay.
Jones's lawyer, Raphael Moxie, said that his client had pleaded guilty freely. Well, his lawyer saying something. The prosecutor, Jacqueline Burrows, said that Jones was trying to avoid responsibility for his actions by claiming his innocence after pleading guilty. The lawyers are expected to make sentencing submissions later this month. I have a headache.
That is very confusing. So, what? Okay, so let's roll backwards through trying to understand the parents' logic. So you think
be able to do this?
So you think that your daughter, who wasn't the victim, put up the other daughter to make this complaint against someone. He then pleads guilty But you're saying, oh, no, this story is made up and he shouldn't be punished.
Mm-hmm. And then he says he only did it because he was frustrated because of the trial process and bail conditions. Because things are going to be a whole lot better for him when he pleads guilty to sexually assaulting an 8-year-old girl?
So, as a parent of a 4-year-old girl, right? I'm framing this from this perspective.
Mm-hmm.
This is so damaging, right? Even if you thought that her story, her telling of the events is untrue, to put it out there in such a way, you damage the relationship with your daughter, because now there's no way that she's going to trust you as her parents to be the protector of her that you're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Especially, I mean, I'm not sure what the family situation is, but especially for the dad, like your whole role is to protect and shelter that kid.
Right.
And you've now gone and said, no, you're not. So my thing is, if they don't, God forbid, if they don't punish him, are the parents then going to send the daughter back over to his house to play with his daughter, the person who she has alleged has assaulted her? Because how far does it go? Like, you have to take these things to the ridiculous conclusion, which is, oh, so you're just fine now sending the kid back over, and what happens the next time?
Well, no, I'm thinking that this daughter, and maybe the other one as well, need to be removed from these parents. Right? I mean, something is not right.
Yeah, because that's, it's just, there's so much problems that come out of that. Mm-hmm. Because you have a situation where neither of the kids can trust the parents now, because for the other daughter, they think that you, for some reason, have come up with a story and put your sister up to do it. Like, there's so much problems with the way this story is told and everything that's involved
every
in
aspect of it.
But I think it speaks to a larger issue that we see so much in our country, which is we oftentimes don't take victims and alleged victims in these types of situations seriously. Now, I understand that there are situations where people lie on others, and that is a thing that exists. But I feel like we have to be very mindful that we don't just cast everyone who says that they are a victim or allege that they are a victim to the side, just for whatever reason we deem necessary. Because I don't know what the relationship is between this family and the alleged assaulter, but this is just crazy. I'm saying it, but this is insane. Like I say, as a parent, I can't wrap my head around that.
And again, his own lawyer says that he was not coerced.
No, he's
freely pleaded guilty. So this is crazy. Let's hear what you have to say about it, folks. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hi, good morning. Are you there? Call us back, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. This person says here, those parents gotta be crazy. Those children are not safe with them. Damage the relationship with 2 daughters. Mm-hmm. That is very, very bizarre. Let's hear what this caller has to say. Good morning, you're on the air. Hi, good morning. Okay, are they not hearing us? Yeah. Caller, good morning, you're on the air. Okay. Try again. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. It's a text message here. This is about NIB. Only fool thought NIB was not going to increase, despite all the pushback and talk from the government that they were not going to increase NIB. Only one person was saying that, actually, because the minister was saying that it was needed. Mm-hmm. Only the prime minister said not at this time, and was pushing it back in. But anyway, who really believed that? So we basically met zero in savings after minimum wage was increased. Basically, VAT was decreased only for them to turn around and put VAT, I think you're trying to say, put VAT on everything in the supermarket, and then finally increase NIB. Well, NIB will be beneficial to you and everybody else, at least. You might be able to see where that money goes. Mm-hmm. Other stuff, I'm not too sure. Good morning, caller, you're on the air.
And your calls are dropping, that's fine.
Hi, we can hear you now. Yeah.
That's good. 2 things I want to comment on. In India, they're discussing taxing the wealth. And it's also this trickle-down economics that we've been practicing here for so long that doesn't work. So as we continue on that trend, poverty is going to increase. About this sexual issue, I tell you a situation that I'm acutely aware of. You have these children who are walking around town who are undocumented, have parents who are undocumented, and they get pregnant. And when they do, the parents are now in a quagmire because the gentleman is saying to them, guess what? If you try to prosecute me, I will have you deported. So then they don't. And look at these cases. There are plenty of them. And we have a problem. And I have a way to address it, but, it's unconstitutional. But I think I should stop right there.
Yeah, perhaps. Thank you very much. Okay. Boy. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Dwight, and your guest.
Hi.
Yeah, Dwight, I mean, that situation, all that sounds to me. That sounds to me like somebody is threatening the parents, right? To try to get the case dropped because it's so clear. If the gentleman pleaded guilty, the lawyer confirms that he wasn't coerced, right? The young lady who was involved, I don't think she retracted her statement as far as the situation occurring, right? So what I'm hearing is, I believe these people possibly might be hello?
We're listening.
Yeah, I believe the parents possibly might be under threats, right? Because in this country, what we see, threats are the order of the day, and intimidations are the order of the day. So, I hope that is not the case. But listening to what you are saying this morning, that's what come across to me.
Okay.
Right? Now, when it comes to NIB, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? For the longest period of time, NIB was facing this problem, right? And no administration yet to come to the Bayman people and let them know, we taking your money and we putting it in concrete and in old buildings with abandoned and all over the place, right? And this is why this fund is finding itself inside the quagmire, and because why we had too much persons responsible for NIB, but really didn't have no plan for NIB to develop itself or strengthen itself, right? We continue to see people going into NIB looking for other ventures that is not supposed to be a part of in my view, and a part of that board, right?
I'm not too sure that's entirely accurate there. I know what you're talking about, but I'm not sure that is exactly accurate to say that. But it's a common myth and misconception there. But and they can best explain to you why that's not accurate. But the fact is, more people are getting out of NIB than contributing to it. That's the bottom line there. Yep. That's it. As simple as that. They make investments, but they can easily get that money back if they want. So that's not what you're talking about is not the issue. Now you can question those investments, but more people are getting benefits from NIB than putting into NIB.
I think it's an interesting space, right? Because I know a part of the conversation is always the enforcement part of it. So you have some employers that don't do it or don't do it consistently. And that goes to your point of it being more people getting out than putting in. And so I think the question sometimes that arises or should arise around NIB is, what can be done to ensure a greater level of adherence to the policies of what's in place, right? Ensuring that employers are doing their part and submitting contributions and all of those sorts of things. Because I don't imagine it could be that the math is just wrong and there's just simply the percentage isn't high enough to account for what is needed out of the fund. But I do imagine a large part of it is also that there's too much people that are skirting around, not paying the NIB contributions that they ought to be paying.
Yeah.
And I think that then becomes a big part of the conversation, because how do you police that?
Right.
And how do you manage that part of the process?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's take some more calls and we'll get back to your messages. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Along with you and your guest, Dwight.
Hi, good morning.
We need justice, law, and order in this country. Dwight, but before I make my comment, right, I want to ask you a question. See, monies in which the government takes to send people back to their country, what sort of fund is that? Where it came from? Is it a part of NIB or the money that goes into the consolidated fund?
It's from taxes. Obviously, that's how the government makes money. Yeah.
Say it again?
It's from the people. It's our taxes, our tax money. Yeah, that's where it's coming
Well, let me say something. I heard Bell talk about it takes $30 a day to feed the people in which they're sending back home, in which they have, house to send back to their country. The thing is, he or the government that's into that for Bahamian people give them $30 per day to be fed. See, those guys joking.
Well, I think they do for people in prison.
No, they don't. Take this in the handicaps, right? The handicapped people, right? Who are unable to do anything for themselves. They doesn't get it. So they got to behave.
But,
okay? They
folks
joking,
can
man.
access assistance from NIB, though.
Say it again?
They can access assistance from NIB, though, and social services.
See, we're supposed to be building this country for the Bahamian people. And if we're building this country for the Bahamian people, we should have the opportunity to build our self-flow government. Okay? They're taking away from us. They are killing us.
But remember, Bahamian people can access those services. They can. What are you suggesting? That are they not supposed to house and feed the people they're trying to deport?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay,
what I am saying.
Are you saying that they should have a
when you
stimulus
come in
package?
the airwaves and say that, say it takes $30 per day to feed an individual in which you are sending back or which you have house to send back. Bahamian people, okay, the handicaps, not getting feed from government $30 a day.
Well, I don't know the number, but you can access assistance. You're saying it's not enough? You're saying it's not enough. Well, then here we go. This is why NIB is under pressure.
I'm a Bahamian. Well, you see, because of bad management. Okay?
I think it's more complicated
It's bad
than that.
management. When you're not going to do the right for your own Bahamian people, you need not to be managing.
But I mean, I guess the question is,
country.
are you suggesting that, the government does stimulus checks like what the U.S. did during the pandemic? You're trying to just get an idea of,
I didn't get you. Say that again?
I mean, are you suggesting that the government does stimulus checks similar to what the American government did during the pandemic? Because like Dwight's saying, people have the ability to access the
What I am
fund.
saying is, right, if you are doing that and you've been doing that for years, giving them more than you give your own Bahamian people, you are joking. You're not supposed to be there because we're supposed to be building this country for the Bahamian people. That's my point. And then other people getting the benefit of it because of the legislation in which government are putting out there or establishing, then you're joking because you're leaving your Bahamian people undone.
Okay.
Consider it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I mean, I hear he's talking about people with disabilities, but many people with disabilities are able to work. I'm sure there are some that are not able to, but that's what some expect from the government too, to make it easier or to mandate folks hire people with disabilities so that there is less of a burden on the government, which means less of a burden on us, because we still have to pay taxes to support these initiatives.
I wonder if the point was that the dollar value that if you go to, as a Bahamian, if you go to NIB for assistance, if the dollar value per day is less than the $30 that he's saying.
Perhaps that's what he's saying. We have to check that out.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps that's what he's getting at. It's just that when you look at the numbers, it boils down to Bahamians get less when they go per day, when they go and seek to get assistance from NIB. Perhaps that's what he's getting at.
Yeah, possibly. All right, a couple messages, and we'll get back to the calls. This person says here, I remember a case where a big grown man was convicted of sleeping with a 14-year-old and getting her pregnant. The parents didn't want him to go to jail because they said, who will take care of the child if he's locked up? I do recall that one. I mean,
that's a conversation for a whole other day. But we treat that particular issue so flippantly. Like my wife and I have this conversation every time we drive on West Bay. You know, there's a billboard up just opposite Fish Fry, and they have like the missing persons, and there's just 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 14-year-old, and it's just, you go there and there's a different face and a different name every time, and you're not seeing names or faces fall off. And so it's like just the general issue around, you know, sexual assault and whatever's happening with the disappearance of kids, and it's there and it's not being talked about, at least not meaningfully as to what is going on. And then you have stories like this where we're not taking it seriously. We're not taking the protection of, like, we have to understand that legitimately, like it's not a joke. This is literally the future of our country, and we are appearing to do insufficient to protect them. So my thing is, when you look at the story with this particular current case, I would hope that the courts, you know, sufficiently punish the person, because I don't know how you take on the parents' thing of, oh, you know, don't punish him. That he pled guilty. No one's changed their story. Yeah. Put him in jail.
Unbelievable they would do that to their daughter. It's just really shocking. This person says, wait, did the man who pled guilty not have to give or acknowledge details of what he did? If the details match what the young lady said, how could it be false? Well, okay, people getting into some weird theories as to what's happening here. Another one here. Dwight, that was absolute hogwash. How can you say more people get out of NIB than put in? Where'd you receive that information? What? Seriously? Come on now. You know that is how it works, don't you? We can have them come on and explain it to you.
I mean, I think that's
have you ever claimed from NIB before?
No, me, not personally.
Right, and neither have I. But so I'm putting in. Okay, maybe I'm just making the anyway. But
no, but like I said, I think it's a layered conversation. You have issues with people employers that are not contributing appropriately,
right?
And then you also have, you know, yes, there's going to be people who don't claim from it, but when you look at so. Every female that goes through maternity, I imagine, claims, right?
Yeah.
So you start with that. And then you have a large percentage of our people that are, especially now, like look at the pandemic. Look at how many people either lost their jobs or are working in ways that is way underemployed. Like all of that comes into those people that are going to assistance. You have people who, because of what they suffered when they had COVID, who are unable to work and are now, you know, going to the system for benefits.
Injured on the job.
All of these things exist, right?
Yeah.
And so even though, you know, we might look around the room, but we might be exceptions to the rule, right?
Exactly.
And I think the general conversation around NIB has long been that there's more coming out than going in.
Yeah, absolutely. They do rental assistance, spousal, when your spouse dies. Some people get that, a spousal benefit. There are a lot of things that they're doing.
So you have live birth benefit, you have death benefits, you have maternity benefits in terms of salary. All of those things are, and they happen every day, right? People are giving birth every day. People are dying every day. All of those things come out of NIB. Those are claims that people go to and make from NIB.
Yeah. Take some calls before we have to take a break. Good morning, caller, you're on the air. Are you there? Good morning. Hi, good morning.
Morning, Dwight.
Hi. Yes, good morning.
I think what Raymond was trying to say is that $30 calculates into every 10 days, $300, which would further calculate into almost $1,000 a month to feed the immigrants, right? Versus $84 a month from social services for a month for the persons that cannot help themselves. Thanks for taking my call.
Okay. Well, again, hey, I hear you, but that's not an indefinite period for those folks who are here. Hopefully it's only a few days, but I do get where you're coming from. And this call. Good morning, caller, you're on the air. Hi, good morning. Good morning, caller.
Hi, pleasant good morning, Dwight. Even again.
Morning.
I have a question.
We can barely hear you. You're very muffled.
I'm asking, can you hear me now, sir?
Somewhat.
Yeah, I'm asking, was it the victim's mother who said that you don't believe the story, or was it the accused mother?
The victim's parents.
The victim's parents. Okay, that's interesting because do we know why she came to that conclusion?
Why the parents did?
Yeah.
They say they believe the other sister coerced her into saying that.
Yeah, but why did she believe the sister coerced her?
Do we
know?
No, we don't know.
Or do we know what did the accused say to the police when they picked him up?
Sorry, say that again. Why did the what?
What did the accused say to the police?
Do we know what is it that the accused said to the investigator the matter?
He pleaded guilty. He pleaded guilty.
No. I'm talking about when he was interviewed, what did he say to the police?
All that matters is that he pleaded guilty. He pleaded guilty, and now he's changing his story.
Yeah, but I'm not taking the side of the accused.
The story doesn't get into all of that, sir. It just says that he pleaded guilty. If something changed, that probably would have come up.
Here's my point. The accused said that he pleaded guilty because of conditions.
Later.
The lawyer cannot go to court and say that there were other factors that influenced his decision. If she says that to the court will not accept his guilty plea. So I think rather than coming to a conclusion in this matter, we should try to get an understanding of the whole matter. The lawyer should know the girl very well, and she might be privy to some information that the public do not have. That's just I'm not taking up for him. I'm just saying that rather than jump into conclusion, we need to get a proper understanding of these matters. Thank you so much.
Well, that's up to the court now. But
you're saying that as though he said that he pled guilty because of frustrations with the court process.
He's saying that now.
No, but what I'm saying is even that frustrations with the court process. What does that mean, right? That doesn't amount to I'm saying that I didn't. You realize it makes no sense. It means nothing.
He didn't do it,
right? But it means nothing, really and truly. And so, also in what universe, knowing the way that I think we all know stories of what happens when people who make those sorts of assaults on, especially young people, when they end up in the prison system, right? The thought is, you are the worst of the worst, and you get your comeuppance in the system, right?
Or when you end up outside prison as well.
But what I'm saying is, the understanding is, why would you then, if you know, why would you plead guilty at all? Because if you end up in the system, you're going to be treated a particular way. Right, because you like to mess with young girls, that's going to come back on you. So it's just strange for me to even think that, it's a wise idea or the right thing to do is I'm just going to plead guilty because this whole process is just frustrating me. That those dots don't connect for me.
Yeah. So hey, so the only matter that's being discussed in the court is the sentence.
Right. At this point,
pleaded guilty.
Right.
He's a convict. It's what sentence him to. Will the judge listen to what the parents say? I don't know. But he's already pleaded guilty. And at the sentencing hearing, now you're saying I only did that because of whatever. Whatever. But I hope social services and whomever are paying attention to this matter and will try to talk to this family. Because something very wrong is going on there.
Yeah.
Very wrong. All right, a few messages before we have to take a break. This person says that girl needs to be removed from that house. She's obviously being mentally and or physically abused by her parents. The incident gives insight into why our country is so messed up. The people that are supposed to be protecting are the ones that are physically and mentally abusing their children who grow up to become damaged individuals. Nevertheless, the parents' feelings about what should happen to the convict should not influence his sentencing. Well, what is this one about? This is about NIB. It doesn't mean the end of the world is near. It does mean that we need to do something different other than squeezing blood money from Bahamians. Blood money, well, it'll never be enough. And when you break the backs of the people, where are you going to go for money? We need thinking people and not current economy wrecking advisors. This is in response to what a caller was saying earlier. Investments are made to generate income. If the fund continuously invests in non-income generating investments, it'll be depleted and will continue to pay out more than it receives. We collected 240 million NIB contributions in 2019 and earned about 60 million plus. You see the big difference there? Imagine if all those condemned buildings that NIB purchased were generating income. Imagine if loans were given to public corporations were actually paid back. The fund is primarily being depleted because of bad management, an issue not being addressed by successive administrations. Nevertheless, NIB contribution is a tax, and the government is free to tax us as they choose. Well, okay. A couple more messages here. I am 68 years old and disabled, and I live alone and was paying NIB since 1974. Social Services pays me $80 per month.
Yeah. I wondered if that's what the comment was. Yeah. It's just that when you look at the numbers, it doesn't add up.
Boy, oh boy. That is, that's rough. That is rough. And a couple more messages. Social Services assist, but the base is $105 a month. Work it out. And another text. Are they giving the sheltered immigrants 2 meats? Okay, we're joking here, eh? Okay, yeah, I see. Here we go, focusing on males again. Do you know some women sell their daughters for money? I mean, I don't. Okay, probably, but why are you bringing this up at this moment? What's the reason? Because we gotta put everybody. This is what the case was about, Dexter.
I mean, it's not untrue, but it's also irrelevant in this particular story.
Okay. Yeah, everybody's horrible. How about that? You happy now? First thing we need to do is change the age of consent from 16 to 18. Also irrelevant to this discussion. This girl is 8. 8. Many of these missing girls are found shacked up with men, but they can't be changed. I don't know what that means.
But that's the issue right there. We take this blanket approach to say that, and to be fair, there are both boys and girls missing on that billboard opposite Araki. But we take this blanket approach to say that every young teenage girl, especially that disappears, is shacked up somewhere with a man, right? Their boyfriend, whoever. But my thing is, if you have a 15 or 16-year-old that is with some 25, 30, 40-year-old issue that exists, right? Because we know that, I had this conversation on another show a few weeks back. The teenage brain is not developed to the point of being able to make sensible decisions in a lot of cases, right? It's why the voting age is what it is why the drinking age is what it is, because and even at that point, you still have a lot of teenagers that are making stupid decisions, right? So to act as though, well, it's okay because, well, if that 15-year-old decided to go and shack up with a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old, then she made that decision. But she's not, in a lot of instances, she's not really capable of making a logical and sensible decision. Right. Now, we can talk about economic factors that may come into that place where the family allows it because, well, that man is now putting money back into the family. I understand all of those things become a part of the conversation, but it's detrimental to having in the mentality of how do we protect our children, our youth, to just say, well, all those girls who go and disappear, we just find them with their older boyfriend somewhere and everything's fine. That's just not the right approach to take, because then you have, not saying that they aren't also victims, people who make that decision, but then you have people who are legitimately just torn away from their family against their will. You lump everybody into the same boat, right? And you don't take into consideration the fact that even those 14, 15, 16-year-olds who you end up finding with some older boyfriend a lot of times they're victims as well because they have either been groomed or coerced into that space.
Yeah.
So
and often abused in their homes.
Correct. So
and looking for some place to escape.
And so that it just allows us to move away from the conversation without giving it much thought or really having introspection as to what do we do as a country to protect our children.
Yeah.
And that's the point. You can't escape that, and you can't just cover because that's what we like to do. We just throw that's just that, and we just move on because then you don't have to deal with it.
Absolutely. Wow. We're going to take a break and be back. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Got Opposition Leader Michael Pintard with us after the break. Stay with us.
Started to cry, but then remembered I can buy myself flowers, write my name in the sand, talk to myself for hours, see things you don't understand. I can take myself dancing, and I can hold my own head. Yeah, I can love me better than you can. Can love me better, can love me better, baby. Can love me better, can love me.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Got your first look at traffic for this morning brought to you by RBC. RBC's mortgage specialist can provide helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. In your real-time traffic this morning, as usual, Mile Butler Highway, heavy traffic from well south of the Fire Trail roundabout, straight up to Tonic Williams Darling Highway in the northbound lanes there. Traffic is building on Fire Trail eastbound as well to the roundabout. Over on Gladstone Road, just north of Fire Trail, you'll see that traffic in front of you. Heavy traffic straight up to JFK Drive. And on some building traffic on JFK as well, from between Theodore Lane to the roundabout with Gladstone Road and Bahama Boulevard. Elsewhere, we've got building traffic on Carmichael Road, westbound to Coral Harbor Road, and on Cowpen Road near Faith Avenue, and further east as you approach Blue Hill Road. Blue Hill Road is busy for you as well from St. Vincent straight up to Independence Drive, especially north of Carmichael Road. And Independence Drive, heavy traffic both directions, but especially westbound as you approach Blue Hill Road. In Eastern New Providence, we're seeing heavy traffic on Eastern Road, just east of Fox Hill to about Johnson Road. And Prince Charles Drive near Fox Hill Road, and as you approach Beatrice Avenue. Soldier Road busy for you as well, north of Robinson on the way to Bernard, Wolf, and Village. That's what we're seeing right now. We'll have another report for you after the 8 o'clock news. Morning Blend traffic brought to you by RBC. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds to connect with an RBC mortgage specialist. We'll be back with more Morning Blend after these messages here on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Whether you're looking for your first or new home or even using your existing home as equity, RBC understands that your journey to home ownership is unique and your mortgage financing should reflect that. That is why at RBC we have dedicated mortgage specialists that provide sound advice and helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. Best of all, the RBC mortgage team is mobile, flexible, and will meet you almost anywhere. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds to connect with an RBC mortgage specialist.
Whether your business is in-store, on the go, or both, let Fidelity work with you to maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com.
Sarah, how are you doing?
Okay.
Are you sure? I noticed you've been down lately.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know. I can't really put into words how I'm feeling, but I know I don't feel like myself sometimes. There's just so much going on in my life. School, friends, sports. Sometimes I worry about different things and feel stressed.
I'm glad you're talking to me. And it's okay to talk about your feeling. It's normal to feel changes depending upon what's going on around you.
Yeah?
Of course. All of us should be concerned with our mental health and our well-being. Good mental health means that we can cope with our everyday stresses. You can talk to me anytime when you feel like it.
Okay. Make sure to update Strachan Talks more often and take things from there.
Message is brought to you by PAHO WHO and the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Florida Auto Parts can deliver all the auto parts your car will ever need, direct from the USA and from around the world. Florida Auto Parts provides fast delivery on auto parts, and we ship throughout the Bahamas, genuine or aftermarket, new or used, and all for the best price. Call Florida Auto Parts Trusted Parts Rep on WhatsApp at 1-786-772-8777 to save on your next auto parts purchase. Florida Auto Parts, the right parts at the right price.
Technology serves to make our lives better, so why not your business too? At Custom Computers, we've been maintaining our knowledge and relationships with top tech companies since 1987 and carry only the most trusted brands like Apple, Microsoft, HP, and more. No company has helped more businesses build reliable IT systems than Custom Computers. You name it, we've done it. Call 396-1101 to talk to any of our business experts. Find trust in your tech. Count on Custom Computers.
With so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope selection and car body fasteners, too. Special orders are welcome. It's your #1 fastener store. Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Streets. Call 326-1976.
Innovative research in economics, finance, or business that could change the future of the Bahamas? Is your completed work fit for publication? You can win $20,000 from the T. Baswood Donaldson Research Prize for unpublished papers that adhere to the academic standards of formatting and presentation. Submission deadline is April 30th, 2023. For more information, email exr@centralbankbahamas.com or ka.demerit@centralbankbahamas.com.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM.
KB and Sting, coming with the Mohican ting. Come on, woo! Oh yeah!
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Alexis Barros, my guest co-host today. And this morning we're very pleased to have with us the leader of the opposition, F&M leader, and the member of Parliament from Marco City, Michael Pintard. Sir, great to have you with us. Great to have you again. Happy New Year to you.
Same to you and to your audience, and thank you very much for having me this morning. And I'd want to say good morning to the Bahamas in general, of course, the people of Marco City in particular. Love you, and look forward to office hours later this week.
Oh, wonderful. We have a lot to talk about. Not too much time, and you have the House, I believe, later today, yeah?
That's correct. We the second Wednesday of every month is question and answer day, and unfortunately, the government has been in our view, avoiding the second Wednesday. So we are looking forward to seeing what they are going to do, whether or not they will honor their word, that we will proceed with the question and answer period. Early indications suggest that there's an attempt to push that down the road, and my hope is that cooler heads would prevail.
Oh, wow. All right. So the big headline in the Nassau Guardian today, and all the papers, NIB, and of course you're talking about BPL as well. We'll get to BPL in a second, but NIB, it appears we're heading towards a rate hike, a rate increase there, first one since 2010, and this would be the second ever. But let's get your views on that. We were talking about it earlier. I have a very interesting text. I'll read this in a bit. But what do you say on this? Almost everybody agrees. Well, not so much the public, but that we need to do something immediately before the fund is depleted.
Definitely. For the last few administrations, really, we have been having the discussion on how do we go about heading off insolvency. And clearly the actuarial scientists have said to both administrations on more than one during one administration that we have to address the issue. Obviously, there are a menu of options that every administration could consider. One of those options is a rate hike, which is precisely why we have been saying since Minister LaRota forecast that in his view, based on the information he got, that there was a need to increase the rate hike. We thought it was important that the government have a mature conversation with the public. I think many times...
Has that been happening, do you think?
No, of course not. Not on the NIB issue. There's been no major public debate, stakeholder consultations in recent times. I'm very confident you haven't had persons coming on your show and other shows having the conversation. So a part of introducing new increases is people are expecting that you have done the necessary analysis of impact on employers, impact on persons who are expected to contribute, and that you're going to talk about what effect the increase is going to have on the sustainability of the fund.
All right, so we're going to pick this up in just a few minutes as we break for news. Stay with us.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We're streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Float Channel 612. You can tweet us at Morning Blend 969 and Facebook.com/Morning Blend 969. Text us on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC 422-4796. And now, day 23, time for a quick check of your weather for today. We've got high pressure, a ridge of high pressure will dictate the forecast for the next few days, and that's going to include comfortable and breezy to windy conditions. The frontal boundary near the southeast Bahamas will continue to weaken over the weekend, over the area at least. For today, for the northwest Bahamas, we're looking at partly sunny, warm and breezy conditions with a very slight chance of isolated showers, becoming partly cloudy to cool tonight. For the central southeast Bahamas, partly cloudy, warm and windy with isolated showers and the chance of a thunderstorm. Temperatures getting up to around 81 Fahrenheit, 27 Celsius today. Overnight lows tonight getting down about 68 Fahrenheit, 20 Celsius. In your extended outlook, high pressure will remain the chief weather feature across the islands. Rough seas will continue ahead of a strong cold front expected into the islands by Saturday. So for tomorrow, Thursday, partly cloudy and breezy to windy Friday, variably cloudy and breezy to windy, with the chance of showers increasing ahead of that cold front entering the area by Saturday. That's your morning blend weather check, brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. Visit firstonlineinsurance.com and select a Bahamas First agent to purchase, pay, or renew your car or home insurance 100% online, or just stop by any Bahamas First agent. Bahamas First, celebrating 40 years, is the first Bahamian General Insurance Company Limited. For Bahamian General Insurance Company, what's first for you comes first for us. And your traffic alert brought to you by RBC. RBC's mortgage specialist can provide helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. In your real-time traffic, again, Milo Butler Highway, heavy traffic from south of the Fire Trail roundabout straight up to the Tonic Williams Darling Highway roundabout, and even further north heading up to the Six-Legged roundabout. You're going to be seeing traffic there in multiple directions, northbound, eastbound on JFK, and southbound on New Providence Highway. Gladstone Road, though, looking better as an alternate route for you. You won't see that heavy traffic until you get to about Munnings Road up to the JFK Drive roundabout. Elsewhere, we've got Carmichael Road, heavy traffic out westbound to Coral Harbor Road, and then again eastbound to Blue Hill Road. Blue Hill Road looking busy for you, especially from Carmichael up to Independence Drive. Independence Drive westbound, heavy traffic there. And Prince Charles Drive, multiple issues there near Fox Hill Road, near Beatrice Avenue, and near Soldier Road. And as you head into Robinson Road up to Old Trail looking busy straight through to Soldier Road, which is having issues to Windsor Place. So Soldier Road looking very, very busy this morning. Eastern Road as well, from about San Souci to Johnson Road. And Shirley between Village and Mackey. Those are your hot spots. That's your real-time traffic and your morning blend traffic alert, brought to you by RBC. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds to connect with an RBC mortgage specialist.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
KB and Sting, coming with the Bohemian team. Come on, woo!
And we are back here with Morning Blend. Dwight Strachan along with Alexis Burrows. We're talking with Michael Pintard, the F&M leader and leader of the opposition. Before the break, we were talking about NIB, and we were talking about the rate hike and the opposition stance on the rate hike.
Right. We believe that the government has to have a candid conversation with the population about the real challenges and lay out what the options are. Are they looking at, for example, increasing the age of retirement, or changing it in the opposite direction? This is an important discussion. What are other jurisdictions doing, and to what extent have they taken that into consideration?
The folks in France didn't react well to the government's plan to increase the retirement age.
No, not at all.
Do you think that's something we should look at, though?
No, it has to be on the table, looking at the age, and that's why you do analysis, and that's why I'm saying it's important that the government actually have a discussion with the population. The government needs to collect NIB. And there are a lot of high-profile Bahamians who, for years, have been serial violators to the tune of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the arrears are in the millions. And so the government ought to talk about how are we going about collecting the arrears as a part of this discussion, because you're not going to just simply increase the rates without also reassuring the public, who is already challenged in many ways. You're not going to do that without saying to them, we are doing all we can to hold persons accountable to pay and collect the arrears that are already out there. Right. The other thing that is important is the government has to also reassure the public that it will be responsible in how it makes funds available to government ministries who often are not paying back on a timely fashion. And if you're making investments, what are you making investments in, so that people could be assured you're not making risky decisions with funds that have to be in place when people need need the benefit. And so quite frankly, I'm glad they've made a decision because that's what was important. We now need to hear what the details are.
And you've not heard anything as leader of the opposition. They have not.
I've only heard that they're trying to duck question and answer day today. But and so the government has. Listen, there's some tough decisions the government has to make. But they ought to have a conversation with the population. I believe our public would be receptive if you are open and honest about what you're doing.
Yeah. So we were talking about this off air that the public has a lot of misconceptions about NIB and how it works. And we got this message based on the conversation Alexis and I were having earlier in response to a caller who was complaining about the benefits that they get from social services and NIB. This person says we sound really out of touch, rich, they said white men that are completely out of touch with reality. Bahamians don't get any benefits from NIB. And but we know that's not the case. And,
well, during the pandemic, I mean, the reality is many Bahamians benefited from resources from NIB during a very, very difficult period where persons did not have access to the resources required to feed their family and meet other demands in their life. So, I mean, it's an overstatement to say that there are no benefits. What you can argue is that when you start talking rate increase, as the government is at the moment, you have to clearly explain to the public what all of those benefits are and what new benefits, if any, you are going to introduce, and how do you clear away any red tape that prevents persons on a timely basis from accessing those benefits. One of the things I talk about often, because we see it often during office hours, is for women who have not left their marital home, but the husband did, and towards the end of his life, he returns home. She takes care of him. And he unfortunately passes away, but she can't access some of the benefits that she is entitled to because somebody has played mischief and say, well, they were not subsisting together or staying together as a couple. Something as simple as that. Multiple persons who are women who are unable. They have to verify that he was in the marital home. They were coexisting as husband and wife. So these are matters that should be clarified because we're answering some questions we are sure there are some logical answers to and solutions to, but we are running into many issues that have to be clarified by NIB.
Yeah, wow. I want to get to BPL. You're in today's National Guardian demanding that the Prime Minister show the proof of what he was saying in the House, and BPL has issued a statement as well. And of course, there's a lot of accusations from the Prime Minister that the Minister administration decided against pursuing the fuel hedge as well at one point. But what are you seeking to get from the government now on this matter?
Well, I mean, the government really owes the public an honest set of answers and an apology for putting Bahamians in the terrible position we are in as it relates to energy.
They keep saying it's for the best and that they made the right decision.
No, in fact, what is the truth of the matter is the government got advice on a timely basis when they came to office in September. They had an opportunity to execute the trade, which they would have done in October. That would have locked in a reasonable price. It wouldn't have been the 10.5 cents. It would have been probably around 11, between 11 and 12 cents. And they would have locked in a rate that would have been affordable for the Bahamian people in terms of fuel charge. Their failure to act on the advice given both to the Minister of Works, Mr. Sayers, and the Prime Minister resulted in when oil prices changed, the fuel rate then skyrocketed. They then discovered failure to make that decision has resulted now in tens of millions of dollars of extra costs on the Bahamian people. They had an opportunity in February to try and slow the bleed because the bleed was already happening. And again, deferred the decision. So what has ended up happening is that they've cost the Bahamian people over $100 million by failure to take good advice. That was egregious, but far more egregious was their attempt to deny that they were briefed. Right? So all these new arguments the Prime Minister is raising and all of the people he's deploying, they're largely irrelevant The real issue is they attempted to conceal the fact that they got advice and did not take the advice. And so that is what set off a series of lies told by the Minister of Works and now aided and abetted by what the Prime Minister is saying. So again, the Prime Minister, even in explaining it, has introduced new untruths. So one is, he says no trade was conducted under us in June. Well, there wasn't a need to conduct the trade. The next round was coming up in October, so he can't produce any documentation. I said on my feed, I'll be happy to apologize to the House and to everybody. Produce all the documentation where a cabinet paper was presented to the last administration in June. It was not. A paper was prepared for September. The same one that he saw, the same one that Alfred Sayers acknowledged existed and that the Prime Minister was aware of, but decided against the program. So there are multiple stories that they are floating. None of the stories will solve the issue that they had to increase the price of fuel charge by 163% over a 13-month period, which would result in a 35% at least increase in electricity for vulnerable Bahamians. And for middle class and Bahamians and small businesses, the increase will be almost as much as 100%. That's what the reality is. So here's how they cost us in three ways. One, they cost the consumer electricity rates to go up. They cost BPL to pay more monies that it would ordinarily have on fuel. And three, it costs the government to subsidize BPL even at a time where the law didn't permit them to do so. So we're going to pay, there's a multiplier effect in terms of the bad decision made by the Prime Minister, aided and abetted by Alfred Sayers. And unfortunately, the frequency and the relentlessness with which Mr. Sayers told the untruths require that he step aside. The Prime Minister has now confirmed that he has doubled down on the untruths as well.
So people listening to this and saying, well, you mentioned it. It's not going to make a difference anymore because the prices are going up for the next few months or have already started. So what's the point of going back and forth on this? What do you say to people like, it doesn't matter, my bills are higher now?
No, it does matter because it speaks to judgment of this administration, and it also speaks to truthfulness. The credibility of your word is important. And since you have been secretive about so many things, here is something that has been discovered by the public. And even what has been discovered and is here in black and white, you're not willing to be open about that. So one can only speculate what is behind the hundreds of millions of dollars contracts that have been given out that violates the procurement law, which have been given out in secret, because we don't know who all got the contracts, for what amount, for what term, who are the beneficial owners of these companies. We don't know what these settlements are that the government has given multiple persons who are close to their administration, because you need to know. If you've given a private secret settlement to a public servant that the public is expecting to be fair in discharging their duty, you'll put a cloud over their head if we don't know, did they get $100,000 the way other people would have in other jurisdictions, or did they get $2 million? Because we want to know what that $1,900,000 and I guess it's $90,000 extra is for. We want to. You understand my point? So the Prime Minister has put a cloud over the financial secretary's head. He's put a cloud over the commissioner of police and the deputy commissioner of police. These men may ordinarily make honorable decisions that is unaffected by political association or pressure. But if you are entering into private secret arrangements while they are called upon to make tough decisions on very sensitive matters, you are putting them in a compromising position. So when you hear Joe Bett, the Minister Colby Davis case is dismissed because of lack of sufficient evidence against the backdrop of videos being produced of an altercation, of a police staff association saying they need clarity on the matter, of a Prime Minister saying there was no investigation, but a commissioner saying, yes, there was an investigation. Then when you come out and say there is no evidence, the public begins to raise a question and say, well, okay, this is not a surprising outcome. Because we don't trust you all.
Right.
That's a problem.
Well, I want to move on. We don't have much time, so we've got to get to a lot of different issues here as quickly as we can. To the death threats that the Prime Minister received last week. This morning, the PLP chairman issued his daily voice note message, but he made some serious accusations, and he had said some interesting things about the FN. I want to play a little bit of it and get your reaction to it. This is from Fred Mitchell this morning.
I'm pleased that some voices are now rising up and recognizing the threat that these political activists that I call the Bobsy Twits, Arts and Farts, the broke leg man, are to the peace and good order of the Bahamas. Our Constitution gives that mandate to the government to maintain the peace and good order of the Bahamas. If we cannot do that, then we must throw in the towel. That means the control of the executive areas of government to keep it safe and sound, and money in our pockets, food on the table, a place to live, and educate our children good health care. We have that charge in the PLP until September 2026. It cannot be done if you allow some reckless and selfish people led by a dreamer who wants to return to power. On Wednesday, the 1st of February 2023, that volatile combination of charlatans supported by the leaders of the FNM brought this country to the point of death threats against the Prime Minister, and that of hurling insults, and this is based all on a false premise. Okay, you might be able to argue that cursing and carrying on is free speech, but the law does provide that where there is obscene language to the annoyance of a police officer, when there are threats of death, when you threaten to cause incitement, you break the law. One of those twits threatened Haitians and fired a gun in the air on video, and yet he still walks around the Bahamas as a free man. There is always this cleavage, of course, within our party from the Pindling era about whether you take the high road or match these people toe for toe in the nasty things that they say. But congratulations to Ambassador Brian Seymour for calling out the nastiness and the violence. Congratulations to Bahamas Press for pointing us in the direction of who is actually responsible for this. Notice that the Free National Movement has not said a word to dissociate themselves from it. Notice also that Hubert Minnis has not said a word to dissociate himself from it. So one can add 2 and 2 and come to the conclusion that maybe, just maybe, he thinks he can benefit from any of the chaos and disorder which will ensue if the threats of harm and assassination are carried out. Where are the civic leaders, the array of bishops, priests, archbishops, archdeacons, deacons, apostles, spirit leaders, evangelists, and preachers? What we've heard as of this date, in response to it, is just stony silence in the face of threats to the peace and good order of the state.
All right, some very serious accusations there from the chairman of the PLP and cabinet minister for foreign affairs. Michael Pintard, what do you say to that?
Again, just before I address the diatribe by the chairman of the PLP, who should not be sitting both as chairman and minister of the public service, while penalizing public servants who may have any political thought, expressed or unexpressed, because they ought not violate general orders. But he, as the top public servant, is consistently violating general order and sets a bad example. Again, one rule for the PLP, a different rule for the public service. But just to tidy up NIB, the $150 million that this government mysteriously produced, because it wasn't in the last fiscal strategy report, they ought to lay the document. We could put this to rest. Mm-hmm. Where did this suddenly appear from when it didn't appear last time they actually released the fiscal strategy report? And so the Prime Minister, unfortunately, his credibility, but the credibility of the country. Mm-hmm. With respect to the chairman, in the midst of many things that he said, is he wishes to know why the law was not enforced with respect to one of their opponents. I find it amazing. He sits in cabinet next to the Minister of National Security. Yeah. So obviously they're having the regular conflicts that they have and a disconnect, because surely matters of what they consider to be important, they would discuss. So they have the duty of care to enforce the law if the law is in fact being violated, and they have not. I certainly can't speak for any former leader, but we don't work through other agents on the front line. We are soldiers ourselves. We are on the front line of this fight to ensure that the Progressive Liberal Party, this New Day government, be responsible in national governance. So we don't need a proxy group in order to do that. So if he has evidence,
that is being spread around. That
it's
clearly
being spread.
the FNM is quiet on this because
I lead the
supporting
FNM,
this.
and so I can tell you,
you can say that's not the case.
Michael Pintard and Shannon Dawn Cartwright with our leadership team, we are well capable, as we have been doing consistently, to hold this administration accountable for the decisions they make and the many that they are failing to make. And when we speak in a very measured way about crises that exist in the country. The immigration crisis is real, contrary to what the Prime Minister and what the Minister Keith Bell has said. It is real. But what you need is a holistic, comprehensive approach, which we have been relaying to the public, which we intend through the select committee we are calling for in the Parliament that the government is avoiding. We intend to address this issue, and we are not going to demonize any group of persons in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, but at the same time, we will protect the sovereignty of the Bahamas and call for investigations into the issuing of work permits. Call for additional investment in border protection, not just the sea, but also persons coming through the airport and overstaying, and we seem not to have an effective enforcement regime to follow up on who has overstayed, no matter which country they come from. We have a software system in immigration designed to make sure when an application enters at one end, it goes through the process and people are unable to pull applications willy-nilly to permit themselves to be tipped in order to do or not do certain things with application. We want an investigation into whether or not this system is working in a holistic manner as it ought to work. That's precisely why we sought to move to a cashless system to discourage persons from behaving in illegal and unethical manner. And so there are a number of things we ought to do, and we challenge the Prime Minister to ensure that we have a select committee. The public is cynical about the willingness of governments to act assertively but humanely. And therefore, we should do this in the light of day. We should call for a select committee to look at the issue of citizenship. We should call for the select committee to make sure that we follow the law in making sure that unregulated developments, shanty towns, do not continue to exist, but simultaneously we are looking at a housing revolution to ensure that those with status can transition into appropriate accommodations. We don't want to create two separate and unequal society. We want integration for those who are here legitimately. They must come legitimately, and they must exist within the context of our law. So we don't spewing hate. We're not blaming every problem in the country on one group of persons. We're more complex and sophisticated than that. And the point is, the chairman knows this. Yeah. He is playing mischief because they are on their back foot. They have failed to act. They have colluded with, they've pandered to certain communities, and now they are reaping that kind of backlash from a public who have seen the play. And the play is, wherever they believe they're able to get additional support, they pander. I say this last thing on this subject. The chairman of the Progressive Liberal Party, if you would remember, is the very same chairman that wanted the national identity card, pretty much, and wanted Haitian children or children of Haitian descent, because you had no way of necessarily knowing if their parents had status or not state. He wanted them to show some sort of identification. He knows better than most that there is an international convention that persons ought to be educated, or the situation in your country will get worse whether they are migrants or not. He has moved from that polar, from that extreme, right, to now the extreme of appearing not to want to address in a comprehensive, holistic, peaceful, measured way an age-old problem. It leads me to conclude that he will move from one polarity to the next, one extreme to the next, if he believes there is political benefit. We need leadership with integrity that's not going to pander to any particular group, but that's going to make sensible, measured, reasonable decisions on how we protect the Bahamas and do so in a humane manner.
I know that you said you can speak for yourself and Shannon Dawn Cartwright, your deputy, and for the FNM, but Minister Mitchell did mention Hubert Minnis, the former Prime Minister.
You can pick that up with him.
But well, he is speaking quite a lot as an
Every
FNM.
Prime Minister is entitled to defend his reputation and the legacy of the work that he presided over. Dr. Minnis is no different.
Should not the FNM be concerned?
But when we talk about the vision for the future, the leadership is in place and will be in place to continue to do just that. And so, listen, we have an issue of multiple problems. One of those crises is immigration. One is crime. One is this government's inability to grow this economy beyond the pre-pandemic rates of 1% and 2% to a 4.5% to 6%, so we can absorb the unemployment, so that Bahamians can have opportunities in small business development. These individuals we continue to talk about and the personalizing of politics as the PLP likes to do, that doesn't move the needle in the right directions. We ought to be talking about what are the ideas, the initiatives, the legislation that's going to transform the condition of Bahamian. So I'm not going to digress
we ought
into
to be
these
absolutely
personality
but for the public
matters.
Who a prominent member of the FNM who says certain things and has been accused in his voice note of being associated with certain people.
They're not on the show today, and so they let them answer that when you get them to come on the show. I want to focus on what our position is going forward, and so we don't work through the back door as being suggested by the chairman of the PLP. We stand up front and we declare what our views are. Our view is let's put together a select committee to address the issue of unregulated development. Let's put together a select committee to address people who are stateless, and that issue needs to be properly litigated carefully, because you cannot have persons who are entitled under the law and issues not to be addressed. Let's address the issue to deal with the corruption of
I want
employers,
to come back to that in just a second,
as well as gatekeepers who are in the system not protecting the country in the manner. These are the kinds of discussions we ought to have in a sober way.
All right, I want to come back to that in a second, but I know you all issued a lot of statements over the past few days. I don't recall if you
Really
did.
the past year.
Yeah. Well, especially in the last few days. It was a torrent of statements. But about the death threats, what is your view on that? What do you say?
Listen, we are living at a time in the Bahamas where there's a tremendous amount of anger in homes, in our schools, on our streets. As a result, we've had an explosion of violence. And so I do not find it uncommon. Listen, when Bahamians hear death threat, they don't react in the same way politicians do, because Bahamians are hearing that on a regular basis. For very little reason, people are threatening family members, their neighbors, and strangers on the road in road rage. So we have a national problem. And every Bahamian life, inclusive of the chief executive of the country, is important. And so all right-thinking Bahamians repudiate the death threat, whether it is in Angliston, where I grew up, or Yellow Elder, where I grew up, on a family island, or a gatekeeper who is a policymaker. And so we should repudiate it. What we should also be careful of is not to be untruthful in so many things that we say, that a cynicism emerges in the public where they begin to wonder if you're telling an untruth about any threats that may have been leveled against you, particularly since most of us who have led political organizations have received death threats. I mean, certainly all of the leaders that I have spoken to or are aware of secondhand have received death threats. And so persons are cynical. They're saying, sometimes people raise issues, even if it occurred, at a level in order to switch the conversation. That's a part of what is being discussed by a public.
Do you believe that's what's happened here?
No, I'm making a point about where our people are at. That there is a cynicism in the public, that people believe that the critical issues that affect us, that when a government is being called into account, it finds creative ways to switch the conversation. And the reason that has currency in the minds of some Bahamians, because it's done quite often using other mechanisms. For me, I make a simple statement. We need to repudiate any form of death threat, even when people report that they have been threatened. We have to do the investigation. One can always ask whether it is prudent, if you are following some significant leads, to then talk a great deal about it in the public domain, as opposed to make progress on the investigation. But that's a separate issue. Let's repudiate it, but let's create an environment where all Bahamians appreciate the value of life, that they communicate with each other with civility. The chairman talks about the manner in which people are behaving and speaking violently, which he rightly should talk about. But I, on my feet in the House of Assembly, chastise him and a member on our side when they use figurative, I gave them the benefit of the doubt to say they must have meant figurative terms that were quite angry and violent. So you can't give advice. You can't give advice about civility in speech and the enforcement of the law around incitement when you yourself in voice notes have talked about taking physical action, which some people say may or may not have been figurative. And so we have to be very, very careful in this regard.
All right. We could go on quite a bit longer on this one, but we don't have the time. All right. So I want to go back to the immigration matter. Many have been saying that we do need to look at the Constitution. I've been saying it. Others have been saying that. And Article 7, that could be a reason we're having the challenges we have, where anybody born here, if your parents are not here legally, you will be entitled to apply for citizenship at age 18. Is this something we need to look at? Should this remain as part of our Constitution for the Bahamas?
Again, that is one of the terms of reference outlined in the call for the Select Committee. That is a live matter that has to that ought to be discussed.
What's your
view? For me, it is
on
very straightforward. For me, that a Bahamian, first of all, a Bahamian male and female should be able to transfer citizenship, and this is a slightly separate issue, transfer citizenship to their children. The fact that we are in 2023 and we are still
that is
having,
a totally different issue.
No, it is. Yeah. I want to be clear. See, because again, we want to look at this thing narrowly. I'm saying we need to have a comprehensive discussion, and the priority ought to be Bahamian male and female should be able to pass on citizenship. We already have a provision in the Constitution that is not being followed in large measure because there's delays in dealing with the backlog of cases. So a number of people are stateless. We ought to move with haste to remedy that situation, which is already provided for under the law. All other pathways to Bahamian citizenship ought to be on the table for discussion. Some persons have recommended we should look at the green card system, where persons have permission granted by the state to live and work in the Bahamas. However, they don't have the right to vote. That is one category. There are others who believe that we ought to have organized migration, that after you've done an audit of the skill sets we need, the amount of workers we need, wherever the deficit exists, we enter into arrangement with other countries to have persons to come and work for a defined period of time to fulfill that gap in the employment market, and then they return home. So all of those other categories, let's litigate it. You can't say, well, the government has a responsibility now, so we're taking care of it. We don't need a select committee. The public doesn't trust that you are doing this. They could see that over successive administrations, there have been gaps in our system, so we now are where we are. Let's do this in the light of day to have candid, open discussions with concrete timelines to resolve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of these issues that are on the docket. And let me, as I transition from this, let me say, immigration is not the only issue we have. So for those who wish to make this a 1 or 2 issue situation, the Free National Movement is a mature party that is dealing with a range of issues, as the government ought to be doing since they are in the chair, and we'll continue to monitor, to hold the government accountable, and to share our vision on how we move over multiple ministries, multiple issues, including this one.
All right, but are you going to answer my question, though, about your view on Article 7?
I just did. That needs to be a part of the discussion. My view, Michael Pintard...
We are curious about your view.
No. You're curious. You should be curious about the Free National Movement's view. Mm-hmm. And so when I put forward... When I put forward, I've already said, no one should be stateless as prescribed by our Constitution. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about...
But if you come here and both of your parents were here undocumented, here illegally, what should happen?
If that has fallen out of the timeline that we're talking about, they are not entitled to be regularized in the manner our Constitution...
So you agree that it should stay the same? That they should be allowed to be regularized?
I'm saying that we have a constitutional provision. Persons who fell within that category ought to be dealt with. Hastily, we ought to solve that problem. I'm saying all other scenarios, we ought to arrive at a shared position on that, and that requires public discussion. That's the point I'm making. Mm-hmm. So every matter, as we did with the marital rape issue, as we've done with other issues, we call meetings in the Free National Movement as a mature organization, and we ask, what are the views of the members? So when I come and sit before you, I'm expressing what the organization has committed to doing. So this is not an autocracy. This is a democracy, and that's how we function in arriving at positions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but you're not going to say your personal view.
You're spending a lot of time on this, and
because I'm not getting an answer.
No, I answered you. I answered you. We should really move on. I've answered you.
Okay. All right. Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to be talking with folks from Grand Bahama. You represent Marcos City there, about what's supposed to happen with the Port Authority. The Prime Minister made some statements that changes must come, and folks are questioning what does that mean and what should those changes look like. What is your view on what should be done with the GBPA?
Well, the Prime Minister, I think he said more than that. I think the Prime Minister made a definitive statement about the present leadership of the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the fact that they wish to move on from this present arrangement. Well, first of all, Grand Bahama, as you know, is governed by the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, and this administration is not in a position to willy-nilly or follow through on any personal whims or fancy that it has. Their decisions are going to be guided by law. Mm-hmm. Now, if the Prime Minister is saying that in his view, there needs to be new ownership of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and the government intends to become that new owner, I believe that is a proposition that Bahamians in Grand Bahama are receptive to. Again, this particular administration, as a member of parliament in Grand Bahama, I would not be confident in this particular administration presiding in all of the ways a port authority presides over Freeport. Mm-hmm. We do believe that we need leadership at the Grand Bahama Port Authority that has the resources, that has the vision, that is working collaboratively with its licensees and central government to transform Freeport as a city. To date, we are not having that kind of result. It does not exist at this time in Grand Bahama. So the government and the opposition would be on the same page only in the sense that we agree that what we presently have is not adequate. But let me be clear. That is the same view that I have with respect to central government. We have not done sufficient to work collaboratively, central government and the Grand Bahama Port Authority. In my view, when we were in power and now that the Progressive Liberal Party is in power. Mm-hmm. And so our caucus is having a robust discussion, which we intend to engage different stakeholders in the Grand Bahama community about the way forward for Freeport. And while we have a good relationship with those that own GBPA and those that preside over GBPA, we believe that more can and must be done.
I want to read something for you. This is what Shadow Minister of Finance, Kwesi Thompson, who's the MP for East Grand Bahama, what he told the Tribune. Right? And he said, quote, "Clearly we need a change in the Grand Bahama Port Authority. It has always been my view that the Grand Bahama Port Authority structure has outlasted the times. We need a GBPA that is accountable to the people of Grand Bahama and not just their shareholders. We need a GBPA that can and will provide a new vision for the island. We also need a GBPA that can provide the resources that the island needs for development, for redevelopment. We need more responsibility and power in the hands of Grand Bahamians, backed by an international partner with the resources to make this happen." Now, maybe it's just me, and I talk about this all the time on the show, but I hear real local government, municipal government there. Is that not what you're thinking about there? Is that not something that can happen there, where not the central government, but a local government authority with elected officials are running the port and a model for all of the Bahamas, everywhere?
There are in fact, three layers of government in Grand Bahama. You have central government. GBPA, really, the way it is structured in Hawksbill Creek Agreement, is a regulatory agency as well. So that is municipal government. Mm-hmm. And then you have local government, which is not sufficiently strengthened by central government. So there needs to be greater allocation to local government within our central government system. GBPA, again, and I think this is something we should do an entire show on, GBPA as a regulator, it adds additional layers onto approvals when central government then is called upon to approve some of the very things that an effectively ran GBPA should approve. So, for example, there should be no need for major investments that are coming to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to go through 2 levels of approval. Mm-hmm. And that is precisely what's happening now. There are some overarching things that central government should not cede to a municipality, in my view. One of those things is the whole issue of citizenship and granting of citizenship should be retained by the state, but not inefficiently ran the way we have been running it. And so that's one of the overarching things, which is why we should be running on 2 tracks simultaneously when an investor comes to the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. For those elements that require central government approval, they should be applying there at the same time they're applying to the Grand Bahama Port Authority. But we should not have this case where you get an approval in Freeport, then you go to New Providence, it's held up for whatever reasons. The second thing that should happen is the environmental laws, which is another overarching issue. We should give teeth to the bylaws in the GBPA, in that municipal government structure, so that they could make the decisions, and their bylaws has to be consistent with what is in our national interest in terms of environmental protection and conservation. But this business of having the Department of Environment, that's responsible for environmental protection in New Providence, holding up projects that have already gotten a green light in Grand Bahama, granted that the GBPA has done its proper vetting, has ensured that there was an environmental impact assessment, that we have to reconcile these things. So we have a clear sense of what layers need to be eliminated. And so when Kwesi talks about that, we are on the same page. Mm-hmm. Change must come. But we this can't be politicians using the GPA as a scapegoat. They have responsibility, and we've spoken plainly. There has to be fundamental change. It shouldn't be the Davis administration in charge of Freeport. I can tell you that isn't the fundamental change.
So you agree that the positions that the family members of the GBPA have should be elected? They should be elected to those, whoever wants to hold those positions, they should be elected to positions?
No, I'm not. That's not the point I'm making. What I am saying is, if the present families are unable to execute what we have outlined, we believe is required, to bring to the table the requisite resources, to work collaboratively with its licensees, the stakeholders in Grand Bahama and central government, as we cast a collective vision for the forward movement of the city and by extension the island, then we need different leadership. The collaboration is not happening. And central government, so I want to finish the point so it can be absolutely clear. So while we have agreed of what we see as inadequacies in the municipal government, and then of course in local government, the underfunding of local government and insufficient teeth in local government, I want to come to central government and to accept a part of the responsibility as a member of parliament, as a member of the past administration, that more could have been done to ensure we foster collaborative governance in Grand Bahama in general, in Freeport in particular. There ought to be, listen, many times the industrials are not engaged in Grand Bahama despite the tremendous employment generated by them. And again, that is not new. We have to fix that. We ought to be doing far more joint planning of the way forward for Grand Bahama, as well as joint promotion of the island. We ought to put together a list of what are the constraints that hinder development in Grand Bahama, and these various stakeholders are sitting at the table regularly to tick off. How do we make sure people who land in Grand Bahama pay less fees, because it's cheaper oftentimes to fly over Grand Bahama to a New Providence than to come there? How do you fix the scarcity of tourism, tourist attraction, heritage and ecotourism attraction so that they could be attractive to tourists, stopover and cruise passengers? How do we reverse the drain of the population? Because you need critical mass in Grand Bahama so that when you invest in small businesses, as this administration is not doing sufficiently, they can make money because they have the critical mass of population. So how do you bring people in from the Bahamas as well as elsewhere on terms that we define as Bahamians so that we could grow the population in Grand Bahama for white collar and blue collar opportunities? So imagine this list, Dwight, and I'll stop on it. Imagine this list of issues that I've mentioned plus many others. If we have a sober, collaborative conversation, central government, municipal government, as well as local government and all stakeholders to tick these off as we deal with them. That conversation is not happening, and it hasn't been happening for a while.
All right, so we have 45 seconds left. So I'm asking if you and the F&M would support if the GBPA is replaced with a municipal government that is elected. All the positions are elected, and you have a mayor and council members that are there with the rules stating what their position, what their roles would be, and how that would differ for central government, and that they come up elected Grand Bahamians who decide the way forward for the city and the island, and they are accountable directly to the people who put them there, as opposed to another company coming in there or another company type structure coming in there.
Dwight, that should be one option for consideration, but that is not the position we have arrived at as a party. We believe the structure of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, for the most part, provides a framework that can be beneficial to the Bahamas in general, Grand Bahama, Freeport in particular. There has to be some changes. And that's a part of what our discussion is. Let me give another concrete example of one of the changes. It cannot be right that the GBPA and its partners are sitting on 75,000 acres of land, not attracting a tax, but not moving towards development of that property in a way that justify the land sitting there without adequate development occurring. So we have to now revisit a conversation about the utilization of the 75,000 acres that's in Grand Bahama. And so the government has to have a discussion about that. We should also have a discussion about the generation of energy and whether or not we are going to keep the same framework we have where one particular company has the monopoly on electricity generation and distribution throughout the island. So there are a number of very tough issues that should be on the table, and we shouldn't rule out any options at this moment, save for one, that the Davis administration should not be the group to take over the position presently held.
Okay, all right. I wish we had more time, although because I really want to explore what you just said there, because we wish we had options here is for electricity as well on New Providence. I mean, we don't hear anybody talk about that, but can we get some options?
We agreed. I think again the government claimed. I'll just say this very quickly. Another untruth that was offered by the Prime Minister was that the former board at BPL had no ideas on how to retire the legacy debt, which is untrue because the government, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Works was presented with clear, comprehensive recommendations on an energy plan, not merely a BPL plan, an energy plan moving forward. And they had a rate reduction bond that the Prime Minister himself, in the previous PLP iteration, had contributed to developing. They got the recommendation on a rate reduction bond that they didn't act on. They had enough time to do so. There was interest in the market, contrary to what he said, by FCIB and Citibank and others, to raise at least $600 million to execute it. I regret we did not do it when we were in office. So we both share responsibility in having not retired the legacy debt. And because people know that successive administrations in some cases have not done some of the things required, we should find an opportunity to collaborate more in the best interest of our people.
All right. I know you have to get to the House, and next time you come, we have to have a full show on this because from what I'm hearing from you, I don't know if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the FDM or the current administration are quite interested in true local and municipal government. I don't know. I just get that sense.
You and I talk offline, right, about the fact that we're in a generation, if you can't do it in 2 minutes, a minute and a half, and 30 seconds, opinions are formed about what you believe. So let's have a longer conversation.
Yeah, we're going to have to.
And I'll bring some people smarter than me, too, so that they can shed some light on the subject.
We'll have to do that. We're going to do that soon. Thank you so much, Michael Pintard.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much. And I pray everybody is safe today and hi to all the residents in Marco City.
And I hope you get your answers in the House with the questions and answers today.
We hope that the government will not behave in the undemocratic manner they have been in terms of avoiding even our call for a select committee and honoring the second Wednesday of every month, which is question and answer day.
Okay. Appreciate it again. Folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more on Grand Bahama. We've got business people there who are going to talk about their concerns about the GBPA and more right after the news break. Stay with us.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan with my guest co-host today, Alexis Burrows. And if you have been listening, you know we already started this discussion about what we're going to continue talking about in this hour, Grand Bahama and the Grand Bahama Port Authority. What should be the way forward for the GBPA? The Prime Minister is saying that things need to change. And it has a lot of people wondering what that means. Our guests are going to weigh in on this. We're very pleased to have with us the chairman, the president of the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce, James Carey, and businessman and activist Darren Cooper. Gentlemen, great to have you with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Good morning. Good morning.
All right, James Carey, I know you have a meeting, so let's get to you as quickly as we can. Your views on this. You were quoted in the Grand Bahama News, which is printed by the Nassau Guardian, and it comes out every Tuesday, giving your reaction. This is over you, Darren Cooper, but let's hear from you about this. What you're seeing on the ground there in Grand Bahama about the GBPA, and what is different from how it used to be, if there is anything that's different, and what you feel needs to happen at this point.
In spite of what is happening, the Grand Bahama community is a very, very resilient community, and they tend to hunker down and get on with business. The Port Authority is the quasi-government of Grand Bahama. And no doubt there is interaction with the central government. However, what I see that's really missing in Grand Bahama, Freeport in particular, but Grand Bahama as a whole, is that while Freeport started under the Hawksbill Creek Agreement with a plan for this city, we've lost track of that. And right now, there is no master plan of what we're trying to create here. Yes, the Port Authority is trying to find business to come to Grand Bahama, and that all spells commerce. But what is the overall design today for Grand Bahama? And even with the government's recent statements, what is the government's desire for Grand Bahama? What is their plan for Grand Bahama? Because we seem to be just drifting along, anticipating that something will happen. We're always looking for big business to come in. Insufficient attention is paid to small business. But we don't know what we're working towards, except that general position of we'd like the island to develop.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now you say the government, meaning central government. Should that come from central government, though, or should it come from Grand Bahamians?
Well, we'd like to be very involved in that, but we're not being engaged. The central government, obviously, Freeport is a part of the Bahamas, and at the end of the day, the government has an overall responsibility for the country. They should be exercising some influence in directing or expressing their desire for what should be taking place in Freeport, and together with the Port Authority, seek to achieve that. I mean, for example, at the end of the day, do we want to create a town that's a green, pristine town? Do we want to create a touristic town? Do we want to create a family-oriented town? What type of town are we trying to create at the end of the day? Nothing is being expressed about that. And therefore, the whole community, business community, is simply looking to develop their business and at the end of the day, make some profits. Mm-hmm. But we're not focused on an objective, and I think the central government, as well as the Port Authority, should be engaged with the community to come up with this master plan of where we want this town to be, say in 10 years, in 20 years, in 50 years.
Mm-hmm. Any ideas on how that engagement, the form that should take? What would you recommend?
We just need to sit down at the same table, and have a chat. That is the beginning, and then it develops from there. Mm-hmm. No doubt, quote unquote, committees evolve, but committees tend to hold up things as well. But they're necessary evil. But we need to sit down and have an engagement. That just does not happen.
Mm-hmm. So, with all this not happening, what are we seeing? You say businesses are just doing their own thing, essentially. Is that what's happening? Is that what's happening?
They are trying to stay focused, stay operational, because that is their livelihood. But we know Grand Bahama has tremendous potential that is just untapped, that we're just drifting along. I don't think the solution is to simply say the Port Authority isn't doing anything, therefore the central government should take over, and that would make a difference. I don't subscribe to that notion. I believe that the Port Authority is a fixture in place. If the central government were to take over, how does that look to the rest of the world? Is the government just stepping in and taking over a private company? We have to be careful about that. So I think there's room for total engagement by the parties concerned so that we can come up with a plan to move this island forward.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess the question I would have, good morning, if the government is to get that involved, then doesn't that beg the question of the necessity of the GBPA to begin with? And even just the whole nature of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, because if you're going to get that level of it's not saying that it shouldn't happen, but if you get to that level of engagement and involvement at that point, should that even be a private entity, or should that just be how it works? And that's just the government having its influence on what happens on the island.
I'm not suggesting that there is no involvement or participation by government at the moment. I'm sure there must be communications behind the scene. But Freeport can operate under the environment that it is. Government's involvement, I speak to sitting at the table and government sharing its view and participating in developing the plan of where Grand Bahama ought to go.
Mm-hmm. Darren Cooper, let's bring you in on this. You've been on the show a number of times. You've been very vocal. We know that you held a protest a few months back there. When you hear this, what are you thinking? That this is what you've been saying, right? That there needs to be change with the way the city is run. But what's your reaction to all of this?
Good morning all. Morning, Mr. President. I think, first of all, the president of the chamber made good, valid points in his statements and when he started off. I think the last question was asked, the more involvement, or what involvement would government play? I don't think we need to run away or shy away from the fact that government plays a significant role in the function of Grand Bahama now, and nothing happens outside of government's approval. But the president made it clear you have to come to that round table, government, port, and stakeholders. There has to be proper communication and dialogue with the stakeholders, and not just the major companies, but the small man that's out there on the day-to-day. And what is so amazing for me is that the government will make such an ultimatum to the Port Authority, but refuses to sit down with small businesses, refuses to sit with chamber, and have this dialogue and this conversation that needs to be had. I'm not one that's a fan of government taking over the full operation of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. I am not in full support of all the things that the port do, but I'm not that much objective to the port being fully gone because they have their pros and cons. We do need to sit at the table, and we need to have candid conversations, real conversations, to be able to push our island forward. And to be able to deal with our issues. And so government plays a significant role in the yay and nay of Grand Bahama as we speak.
All right. So I think you heard, we were talking with the opposition leader a few minutes ago, and Darren Cooper, you've been on before, as we've said, and I've put it to you before, and Mr. Carey, James Carey, I'd love to hear your reaction to this, but I've said it, and who am I, right? Sure. But that the GBPA model is a good one, but it shouldn't be a private company, and that the positions should all be elected with a mayor, an elected mayor who's responsible for the vision for the city for the next few years, and the people vote on who they think has the best vision, and a council to keep that mayor in check to ensure that things are going the way it should, and that these folks would always be accountable, not private citizens who inherit their position, but always accountable to the people of Freeport, Lucaya, Grand Bahama, whatever it is. Is this not something we finally need to be looking at? And is this not what the Hawksbill Creek Agreement envisioned initially as well, that the company would transition into a municipal government?
Well, a couple of things. One, we have a form of local government which is really without teeth. The inception of local government was good at its time, but now it needs more teeth. The local government does operate within the Freeport area. I am not of the view that the Port Authority needs to be disbanded in its current form completely. However, I think there's room for participation of community in the decision-making of the Port Authority, and I think that will make a tremendous difference. How that is achieved, it could be by election, it could be by the process of local government participating in the Port Authority as it is. But it does need some shake-up and some change. The other point is the consistency in Grand Bahama is the population, is the business community. The governments come and go. We have the PLP government today. We just had the F&M government. And when we talk of government involvement, we if we can go without the politics of the matter, we're way ahead. I don't know how that can be achieved, but we have to give respect to what is consistent in our community, and that is the population, the business community. They're here, they don't go away.
Mm-hmm. Darren, what's your view on that? Have you come around?
I'm not sort of sold on with going into an election with putting a mayor in charge of Grand Bahama. I think it'll call for the changing of the whole overall government system. The PS being in charge and so forth. So I think it's something that we would need to look at closely, something that we shouldn't just make a decision in haste. The Hawks Creek Agreement do have the stipulations. It has its layout of what is expected and what is required for it to be able to be functioning as. There are some things that are in the agreement that's not being done. But I've not probably given it that much thought to see if that's the route that we suggest we go with the mayor. I do believe that if it at the helm of the Grand Bahama Port Authority has to go through an election process and wants to be voted in and being there, I think they perform even harder and more. But the fact that they're just appointed and they serve at the leisure of the owners might give them that comfort of just, if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't.
Well, isn't that the point? You're proving the point.
Right. I think that goes to Dwight's point in that if you have people who are elected and are able to be held to account, I think the question right now is the current leadership of the Port Authority in a position where they can be held to account for their contributions and their involvement in moving Grand Bahama forward. And I think that to Dwight's point, if you have that as an elected position where people know that they're only there potentially for a short time and they have to have ideas and you have to have a vision for moving the island forward.
And you have to deliver.
And then you also have to deliver on those promises, then doesn't that ultimately, would that not put Grand Bahama in a better position because you have people who are being held to account for their running and their leadership of the Port Authority, and therefore that impact on Grand Bahama as a larger community?
But in response to, of course, I'm not a significant fan of leadership of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, but I want to be able to say this as relates to the Grand Bahama Port Authority. And I think it was President Kerry or the leader of the opposition that alluded to the conversation where government the port having to go through government for certain approvals. So the reality of it is a lot of the development for Grand Bahama, a lot of the things to happen in Grand Bahama, the length of time that it's taking now is not really the Port Authority. It's the government. It's those government agencies. So when we go into the election process of putting an elected official in the Port Authority, and they still have to go through the same system of government, of environmental impact study, the environment and all this type of stuff, we're still at the same point no matter who's in the chair. But until we get to giving a body or the body the autonomy or the control to make some decisions, to bring in some development, to bring in the investment that's needed, then we can still be at the same ground point of waiting for governments and government agencies to give green light for the go-ahead of projects. So I think the real elephant in the room is really government looking within itself and saying, what role have we played in the growth and the development of Grand Bahama? How have we stagnated this growth? How have we played or how have we caused some things not to? Because if I'm prepared to develop or to invest, I don't want to wait 5 and 6 years before I can get the first green light or have to go through this approval of this permit and so forth. So even though we're talking about the elected official, sounds good. If we're still going that system with the same system with government involvement, we're not going anywhere.
No, well, you wouldn't do that, and right? And there would be, this is what we're talking about, decentralization. We want this for Nassau as well. It would be decentralized, and that you would be responsible for those things. Like Mr. Pintard said, that there'd be certain things that the central government would be responsible for, national security and other policies, but not that, not when it comes to development and the issues that are going to impact the economy there. And so that would all have to change. And you were right, Darren Cooper, that this would require a restructuring of the government and how we run this country, because we can't continue on the path we're on. We're stuck. We're spinning in a circle, and things have to change. And in the 50th anniversary of independence, I think is a good time to pursue that, but not just for Grand Bahama. We need this all over the country.
Right.
All over.
I think. Question: Are governments, do they have the appetite for that type of thing? They seem to enjoy the ride, the power, all the trappings of office, et cetera, do they have the appetite to relinquish so that we can get to the stage?
You're right. They don't. But we need to have the appetite, and we need to demand it. All of us, Grand Bahama, New Providence, all of the islands, need to say, we cannot do this like this any longer. And if they hear more of us saying that, then maybe they will act.
And we keep kicking the ball down the road. The leader of the opposition, he spoke to some environmental things, the derelict buildings and the changing the bylaws of the Port Authority. But his government kicked the ball down the road to the current government.
Absolutely.
The government before them kicked it down to the previous government. So, somebody has to take the ball by the hands and run with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I think one of the other...
even in our conversation that we demanded from the Grand Bahama Port Authority almost a year ago, in that meeting, the port was very candid and honest with us. And you have these executives saying, listen, we're doing our part. We're trying. But the truth be told, our hands are tied. We have to wait on government to give us the green light. We can't submit approvals or a license because government. So the truth of the matter is, you have government that is playing a significant role in the growth and the development of Grand Bahama Island.
Yeah.
And so we can't run all governments, not just this government, but all governments. And so the ultimatum should be given to the government.
Yeah.
But what are you doing to stagnate growth and development? And it's all in the media now. We have the Six Senses property hotel brand that wants to come to Grand Bahama. A significant investment, a significant boost for our economy, a good attraction to other developments or other investors. And my question is, what role is government playing now in pushing this project that should be developed or should come to Grand Bahama? Fast tracking it and making sure that this happens. We're tired of the photo ops and the pretty announcements. Is getting the government agencies to do what needs to be done. And the truth be told, our PS just sucks. These ministries, they're out the coffee break.
Oh boy.
All of them.
Wow.
I mean, I think there's two things to consider, right? So, in the back and forth, it's just like the government and the opposition, right? It's always going to be the other guy is the holdup in the process. So I think that's something always to be mindful of. I think the other thing, the other elephant in the room when it comes to Grand Bahama is when you talk about investment, when you talk about long term, it's tragic, but Grand Bahama has suffered every few years, catastrophic damage from storms and things like that. I think one of the parts of this conversation, and this is bringing everybody to the table, is what can be done to truly protect Grand Bahama from suffering, because we know that just geographically it's going to suffer from these storms. But how do we insulate it, whether that's from an economic standpoint? What are we focusing on as the attractions in that space that perhaps won't be as devastated by things like storms? Or what can we do to shore up where people are located, where where developments are located to ensure that they can be, at least somewhat protected from the damage. Like that, I think that's some of the conversation as well, because you can have plans, but when Mother Nature comes in, when weather comes in, and you know that that's a part of specifically the history of Grand Bahama, how do we also look at that part of the conversation and have that be kind of front and center as well? Because you have to be able to, try and find a way to protect investment in the long term, because if we can't do that, then you're not going to be able to attract the investors into the space. Because you look at it, and if in 5 years we have another Dorian or another similar type storm, then this is where the value proposition comes in for them, if it's worth it to invest. So I think all of those things become a part of the conversation as well.
Grand Bahama has been uniquely positioned to be attracting storms, it seems. But climate change is a reality. Our island is fairly flat, and there's only so much that can be done. I think that the current disposition with new buildings is that they're raised higher than they were permitted in the past. And I really can't see that we can do very much about that. It's a reality of life. If one of the storms was to really hit Florida, what would be the impact over there? The East Coast is very flat. They had a storm last year on the West Coast, and that was devastating as well. But I can see a heck of a lot happening there. But back to the subject of government involvement, something that has not escaped notice is the fact that Freeport in particular is prime real estate for government, in the sense that there has been a lot of development here over the years. But under the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, Grand Bahama has been, or Freeport particularly, has been void of paying real property tax, and that's been a subject in the news lately. Would government takeover, will suddenly all the properties be subjected to real property tax? Quite a windfall for government and its revenue. Grand Bahama under the Hawksbill, Freeport under the Hawksbill Creek Agreement benefits from duty-free exemptions. Will that go away again? These things are not being said. So what is the true motive behind the machinations now? Is it that the government simply wants control of the Freeport? Does it want to put different people in Freeport? What is the underlying determination by the government? We're not saying. I mean, vis-a-vis reported in the press this morning, the NIB will go up a percentage, but it's not been made official. Is the community so ignorant that it can't absorb what a determination is, that it has to be eased out so that we don't notice it? Or what's the process? It just becomes frustrating. The government looks to the same electorate to elect them to office, but I think there is a certain absence of respect for that electorate, the business community, when it comes down to things happening during their tenure of office.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Great points you're making. I know you have to leave us. James Carey, thank you so much for talking with us this morning. We're going to take a quick break, Darren. I hope you can stick around, Darren Cooper. We're going to be back after the break and take some calls and get to some text messages. We're talking about Grand Bahama, what to do about the management of the city of Freeport and the GBPA. The numbers to call when we get back: 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. This is Morning Blend Business on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay with us.
Thanks for having me.
With so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches.
Legacy College Readiness and Tours. Already get the first set of knowledge. Now it's time to prepare you for college. You're thinking so much you gotta do. Legacy will handle that for you.
Legacy College Readiness and Tours is committed to providing a comprehensive guide through the college selection process, regardless of a student's academic profile. There are many ways one should engage in college selection process. Word of mouth, extensive research, college fairs, and if possible, the most important, college visits. A campus visit is your opportunity to get a first-hand view of a college. A college catalog, brochure, or website can only show you so much. To really get a feel for the college, you need to check out the town, the city, walk around the quad, sit in a class, and visit dorms. College tours are an important part of the college selection process, and Legacy College Readiness and Tours offers that opportunity. If you're interested in hearing more about college campus tours and summer workshop prospects, give us a call at 242-809-5278 or email us at legacycollegetours@gmail.com.
Introducing the new Tortilla Lime Crunch Chicken Sandwich from Wendy's! And I have a little bit of everything. Avocado, taco mayo, pickles, and crunchy tortillas on top of a delicious breaded chicken fillet. Yes, try it and add our all-new Dave's Craft Lemonade to your combo. Wendy's, different inside and out.
We are back here with Morning Blend Business on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Alexis Burrows. We are talking with Darren Cooper from Grand Bahama. And Darren, I just had our dear friend Laverne Gardner. I sent her something that I hope she's going to send to you, and I desperately need you to read that. The folks, the listeners to the show know that I was a part of the committee, the local government committee for New Providence, and we were looking at setting up a local government system here for this
Dwight
island.
Laverne won't be able to send me that. I don't have a cell phone at this time.
Oh yeah, well hopefully she could email it to you or something. But
Okay.
but whenever you get it, I need you to read it because we recognized that the local government systems we have for the Family Islands and Grand Bahama are very limited and not what is needed. But many of the things you brought up, decentralization is key to the development of this country. And the powers that be right now don't want it because it's working for them. But for the rest of us, especially for you all in the Family Islands and Grand Bahama, clearly a lot is left to be desired with the system that we have. And we in that document there, we talk about it. And James Carey mentioned a lot of it as well. We saw that real property tax should be left in the hands of those islands, at least the majority of it. And you use that to pay for a lot of the things that you need. And there would be other considerations like that. And that's what was recommended. Of course, nothing has happened with that. And that, I mean, it's just collecting dust now. But all those things you mentioned, central government's got to get out of your way. And we need everybody to be more vocal about this throughout, especially in the Family Islands and Grand Bahama. You all need to be unleashed The chains need to be removed. And we need a situation where Freeport and Marsh Harbor and Georgetown and Governor's Harbor, everywhere, they are competing for the big projects and able to negotiate based on, well, we can offer you this, we can offer you that, like how it is in every major country in the world. But not where a king, and that's what we've had, a series of kings since 1973 who decide where things go and when people will get things on those other islands. This is not working for us, folks. And we need everybody to realize that something has to give. But yeah, Darren, any final words on what you're hoping comes out of this discussion right now? Though I'm terribly afraid that it's going in the wrong direction and that we're just going to end up with another company, which is what they want to do for New Providence. Have you heard that? They want to have a company manage the city of Nassau. Yep. Boy, what do you say?
For me, I'm rather disappointed in this particular administration that they would make such an announcement or have such a write-up in the papers with little to no conversation with Grand Bahamians, especially the business community. We're hearing everything on the streets and in the news. We heard a few months back the Prime Minister went to Dubai, came back and says investor confidence is on an all-time low. We've seen where the president said, listen, we got some stuff. I can tell you for a fact, since our protest and demonstration of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, we've had good dialogue and good communication. We've been, for the most part, as small business persons, we've been in the dialogue with the government in being able, the Port Authority, in being informed and keeping updated on what's going on, what's their delay, what's their hang up, certain investments. We've met with some investors, we've talked with them, and the cry always be, well, we're hoping for government favor and for government to be able to grant this approval and that approval and the other. And the reality of it is, I don't think it's fair for us to, yes, the port takes a brunt of the responsibility, but I don't think it's fair for us to give all of the state of Grand Bahama to put in the lap of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. It should be shared with the government because government plays a significant role, whether people see it or believe it, in the development of Grand Bahama. We see government take projects from Grand Bahama to other family islands. And so if government can let loose and really give Grand Bahama what they say they will give them, and that is attention and development, I think we'll be better off and we'll be in a better state. And so I would hope that the government, the Prime Minister and his colleagues will see the need to come to Grand Bahama, find the time, don't just fly in and fly out, don't come and just cut a ribbon for this, but come and have the hard, tough conversation with the Grand Bahamian business community, with the Chamber of Commerce, and with other stakeholders for us to be able to chart the way forward and be a part of the way forward for Grand Bahama.
Yeah. We hope it happens. We're praying for all of you and for us as well because we need it in New Providence. But Darren Cooper, thank you so much for talking with us this morning. And we want to thank again James Carey for being with us earlier. And good luck to all of you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's take another quick break, and then we'll be back to wrap things up. This is Morning Blend Business on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Whether your business is in-store, on the go, or both, let Fidelity maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
It is time for your morning business report brought to you by CFAL. BPL, Bahamas Power and Light, announcing that it is resuming fuel hedge transactions and is in the process of implementing a new agreement that will hedge an additional 15% of its acquired fuel. BPL noted the purpose of fuel hedging is to stabilize the overall cost of the fuel and pointed out that at this time, more than half, or about 56%, of the fuel used for power generation is hedged. BPL did not address the controversial matter of the government's failure to conduct hedge trades in the fall of 2021 to stabilize the fuel charge in its statement, but those 2021 requests for hedge trades were made after the Davis administration assumed office in September of that year. Stressing that many Bahamian small businesses are only just beginning to recover from the economic blow of the COVID pandemic, East Grand Bahama MP Kwesi Thompson, the opposition's shadow minister for finance, urging the government to immediately reverse a handful of new policy changes required for business license renewals. Guardian Business reported yesterday issues raised by Crystal Rutherford Ferguson, the chairperson of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, who said the Department of Inland Revenue's new requirements are causing weeks-long delays. The requirements include that all businesses must submit a real property tax assessment number, even if they are renters, and all businesses earning less than $100,000 in annual revenue must provide proof of income, calling it shameful that the private sector has had to publicly blast the government over its policies. Thompson says the opposition supports the comments made by the chamber and called for the Davis administration to immediately address the concerns raised. Read more on this story in today's Guardian Business section. Royal Caribbean's private island destination in the Bahamas, Perfect Day at Coco Key, has become so popular that the cruise company has decided to expand its capacity. Hideaway Beach, a new adult neighborhood on the Key, will expand the attraction by 3,000 guests, bringing its total capacity to 13,000 daily. The cruise company announced this during its fourth quarter earnings call yesterday. The demand for the product, according to RCL Business or President and CEO Michael Bailey, he says the demand has been exceptionally high, and the demand not only is there from a volume perspective, but that the rate is there and that the rate has been going up again in a very healthy way. And while there was a 12% increase in construction activity in the third quarter of 2022, measured by the number of new construction permits issued, the corresponding value of those permits dropped by more than $30 million compared to the same period in 2021. That's according to the Bahamas National Statistical Institute. Construction activity is a key economic indicator. The Institute's data revealing that there were 424 new construction permits issued at a value of $135 million, higher than the 380 issued in the third quarter of 2021, but those carried a value of $167 million. Overseas, Microsoft's stalled $68.7 billion deal to buy video game company Activision Blizzard has hit a fresh hurdle in the United Kingdom, where the antitrust watchdog said today that it will stifle competition and hurt gamers. Britain's Competition and Markets Authority said in its in-depth investigation that it found that the deal could strengthen Microsoft's position in the growing cloud gaming market, harming UK gamers who cannot afford expensive consoles. In cloud gaming, players stream games on mobile phones and handheld devices that they already own. The blockbuster deal could hurt British gamers by weakening the important rivalry between Microsoft's Xbox console and Sony's rival PlayStation machines, according to the report. The all-cash deal, which is said to be the largest in the history of the tech industry, is facing opposition from Sony and pushback from regulators in the US and Europe because it could give Microsoft control of popular games such as Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, and Candy Crush. In your Market Watch, recapping trading on the BISX from Tuesday, your market movers, Bank of the Bahamas, moving 1,930 shares, closing at 284 unchanged. Colina Holdings moving 1,250, down 4 cents to 850. Commonwealth Bank moving 10,000, down 8 cents to 352. Thamgard moving 2,500, down 10 cents to 11.10. Consolidated Water down 1 cent, closing at $3.06. And Emira Incorporated unchanged at $9.87. The BISX All-Share Index closing at 2,648.09, down 5.81. That's your Market Watch. And that is your morning business report, brought to you by CFAL, growing wealth for future generations. And Alexis Burrows, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Hope you're enjoying this.
It's fun.
Yeah, we'll have you back soon. And looking forward to that. Thank you again. Appreciate it. Hope Chester Robards is getting better. And I'll be back tomorrow morning with Morning Blend and Morning Blend Business right here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan, have a great day, everybody. Stay tuned for On the Clock with Aaron Green coming up next.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.